After losing Calvin Ridley to an ankle injury and Mohamed Sanu to a hip injury, Matt Ryan leaned on tight end Austin Hooper, squeaking out a close win over the Bucs. Passing for 354 yards and 3 touchdowns, Ryan continued to produce for FF enthusiasts. In fact, Week 6 was his third top 5 fantasy outing of the season. Assuming he gets either Ridley or Sanu back on Monday night versus the Giants, and noting Devonta Freeman's absence from the game, Ryan should remain an elite option in Week 7. I'm fearlessly forecasting 321 passing yards plus 3 touchdowns.
All right, so by now you've heard the stat over and over and over again. The Falcons allowed the most catches to running backs in 2015, 2016, 2017, and they're right back at the top of the leaderboard with an NFL high 53 given up this year. Oh, don't worry, they only have Saquon Barkley coming to town this week, who's currently pacing for 136 targets on the season. The dynamic pass-catching back should be a big part of the Giants' plan of attack against the ultra-generous Falcons defense. Don't be shocked if we see Barkley go for 200 total yards for a second straight week. I'm fearlessly forecasting 17 carries for 79 rushing yards and 9 catches for 81 yards and a score through the air. Ito Smith continues to be a thing, and there's little reason to expect that to change. Tevin Coleman has not really added much to his touches, falling under 3.7 yards per carry in every game since Week 3. He's never too much of a threat for passing game work either, as he's had 4 catches or fewer in all games this season. The Falcons are 6.5-point home favorites over the New York Giants in a game with a beefy 54-point total. So Coleman should find the game script he needs to at least push for a touchdown, even if Smith continues to dig into his touches and yardage total. I'm fearlessly forecasting 16 carries for 71 yards and a score on the ground and 2 catches for 23 yards. It's hard to say to what degree I care about Ito Smith, but in some way, the feelings are there. Smith is clearly a gifted runner who can make people miss. He has 3 touchdowns in as many weeks and continues to show why the team wants him to have a place in the backfield. Perhaps he's just a thorn in the side of Tevin Coleman owners the rest of 2018, but I can tell you, we will be talking about this cat in 2019 as a sleeper. For now, if you need a bye week fill-in, I actually think you could do worse than Smith given his use in scoring areas and for this offense that's really cooking right now. The Giants don't exactly pose much of a threat on defense, and this game does have a beefy 54.5-point total. I'm fearlessly forecasting 13 carries for 43 rushing yards and 4 catches for 34 yards.
Sterling Shepard has 75 or more yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He is consistently seeing over 7 targets per game. That's pretty good news. The quality of the quarterback play for the Giants has been not perfect. It's not a clinic in any given week. But the matchup this week, it's about as good as it gets. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're allowing 296 passing yards per week. They've given up 16 passing scores on the season so far. That is tied for the most in the league. It should be a good week to start Sterling Shepard. I'm going to give him 7 catches here, 81 yards, but no spike. Let's have a little fun with on-pace numbers through 6 weeks. Julio Jones is on pace to have one of the most ridiculous receiving seasons of all time. On pace for 117 catches, 1,885 yards, and no touchdowns. If anybody can pull that off, it's going to be Julio. He gets a matchup this week with a Giants defense that has actually been okay against the pass. They give up only 7.2 yards per attempt. The 10th fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. We know that Julio is going to see volume at least until Atlanta gets near the goal line. So that's a good sign. I think it's another good week in terms of receptions and yards. I'm going to give him 9 catches here, 121 yards, no score. Hey, not sure you guys have heard, but Odell Beckham is not entirely happy with the Giants offense. There are certain things that he could be happy about. He's seeing over 11 targets per game. He has 300-yard games on the season. Of course, only 1 touchdown because Eli Manning has been a minor disaster. The matchup this week is great. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They've given up 16 passing scores on the year. That is the highest number in the league. If Odell is ever going to return to the end zone, it's probably going to be here. I think it's another high-volume week for him. I'm going to give him 8 catches, 111 yards, and I think he finds the end zone.
If Double E returns to action this week, he's somebody worth considering in your fantasy lineup. Now, when he has been on the field this season, Evan Engram is tied at 18 in fantasy points per game. Somebody like the entire New York Giants offense as a whole that is underwhelmed. Of course, with the exception of the sick Saquon Barkley. But you look at the matchup, Atlanta's allowed the 14th most fantasy points, 2 tight ends, giving up 4.8 receptions, 51.8 yards per game, 3 total touchdowns. They've also given up a crazy 72.5 catch percentage to the position. Again, if he suits up, Engram goes for 4 catches, 57 yards, but no touchdown.